Hi, Andre. I would like to know how we can include AI into the ECDIS to recognize the ISM system that the settings are fulfilled as per ISM in the ECDIS. And can this be used as an AI and to fulfill the background check or something? Because other managers, other manual, other settings. Can it be a tool or something?
Okay, I think it's not directly related to the ECDIS, yeah, at least until the licensing issue sorted out.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but the good thing is that there are many things where AI can help outside the ECDIS, particularly if you consider the local system which can collect the safety management system for a shipping company, local regulations, the whatever, IMO documents, and so on, you name it.
Yeah.
Yeah? And it will prompt the user where to find stuff. That would already be a big help.
Yeah.
Again, product liability would be a big issue here.
Okay.
We know how crystal ball works today. Sometimes I would really question the responses I get from the co-pilot. Yeah? And if advice is not going to be fine, and vessel finally does a mistake, who's going to pay the bill? Yeah?
You.
This is a challenge. Yeah? But yes, there is a move in this direction. There are some few things which are already in progress. Yeah, we're really looking forward. But it will be first on this side. Yeah? Other than that, on the shore side, the AI elements already in use for post-voyage analytics or analyzing the EIS data or whatever, you name it. For instance, we use it for the elements of that in the route network creation, which is the backbone of the MIRA services for routing. Yeah? To imagine that stuff inside the ECDIS would be difficult for me.
I actually have another question for Andy now. Sorry. It's regarding the S102, the hill view, what you showed, between changing dusk and day and so on.
Yeah.
So it looks like daylight operation only possible, perfect for us. We appreciate it. But the other question is, do we need that view?
No. I think, with your navigator's hat on, it's producing some additional information. I think it might be nice from a sort of a pre-arrival brief. You can sort of understand the makeup of the seabed, but in terms of I'm looking at my safety contour, I don't see that view being used.
The thing is, what I was thinking is to change the view from the top view to just to this view to the ship, to see the vessel shape, and to see if there is some rocks coming or something, so you can see in advance, okay, there is something, and I'm fine to go through, or there's some. Just change the view.
Yeah, I think that those views could be really powerful depending on what your sort of operational conditions are. Ultimately, when you're using the S102 data, if there was something that was going to be above the safety contour, it's going to get highlighted by the look-ahead sector anyway. So that kind of check is already being done in the ECDIS, but it's nice to sort of understand the makeup of the sea floor as you're going over it, because it does change the characteristics of how your vessel might behave. So having that is a quick toggle, and I think this is the issue at the moment with the S100 ECDIS is we have all of these data standards ready, but actually how the user interface and what is really important to a mariner and what should be a top-level menu item, what can be buried away, those are the things that are really delaying the next generation of performance standard, because we have to figure that out and go in with some educated information from industry rather than just some experts in a room decide.
Okay, thank you.
So hello, Hans-Christoph Master Fraunhofer CML. Back to the licensing issue. Sorry for that. I guess you might get some more questions on that. We do a lot of prototyping and development, and also started with one of the chart servers on your S57 kernel and experienced the same problem. So I have two questions with regards to that. First of all, do you think that solving that issue, at least for example, internal hosting on servers and stuff like that, will also include then old S57 charts, or is that only something that we will see for S100 at some point in time? And the second question, which is maybe a bit more related to the other part, how far are we in using that data for, let's say, alternative means for safety navigation on board bridges? We do a lot of experimenting, for example, with head-up displays, augmented reality, where we include the chart data, at the moment on a prototype basis, of course, only. Yeah, is something like that in the long run also covered by, at least for the license for chart display?
Okay, thank you for the question. Well, to start with the first one, historically, I think all the licensing scheme was built around the display of the data on the ECDIS for the navigational safety on the bridge of the vessel. Yeah, as time goes, the data gets more complicated. It is used elsewhere. It is used ashore. And the licensing scheme being driven by, correct me if I'm wrong, from the national HOs, or at least the flavor goes from there. I think it's just cannot cope with the speed of development of other possible applications. To my taste, if I might be in a position to advise that this licensing scheme should not be targeting at this micromanagement. It should be, let's say, a matter of trust to the industry to make use of this data. And for me, it was strange to hear that the major concern was that the revenue will disappear. My taste the other way around. If all this hurdle removed from a licensing perspective, the revenue for the data would go over the roof. Yeah? And it would allow to open up for the many other cases, and that would drive the development as well. Yeah? So this is the first question. The second one was the, if I'm...
We can use the existing license for alternative means besides charters available.
On board of the vessel, I think yes, you can use it. The key word on board. Yeah, whenever the vessel buys the license, I think it is for, depending where you buy it, for 5 or 10 displays. So what these displays are, not really defined. Yeah, I would assume that it might be regulatory equipment like ECDIS or chart radar, or that sort of stuff, or maybe planning station where used, and maybe some other displays. Yeah, like emergency navigation system or that sort of stuff. So generically, I would answer yes. Sometime in Germany, what's not explicitly allowed is forbidden, but here I would take a different path. What's not explicitly forbidden, allowed. So I would go for that. Do it unless you are stopped.
Andre, you are just growing your fan base. I like that.
Yeah, I have a question to Raymarine. Have you implemented in your proposed, which you said it's available from 2026 for hydrographic offices, so is it including the signature and security, is 15 or part 15 implemented in, yes? And the second, have you tried the Canada Sea trials? So there are a couple of IHO test beds, like you heard earlier, there was UKHO and France test bed going on. There's also a Canada Sea trial. Have you tried in your this data loading in?
So sort of on the first part, that was one of the challenges we had with the UKHO trial, is we'd sort of implemented the security validation by the book, and then we had to frantically turn a lot of that off because the data wasn't signed. So that was the first hurdle we come across. The second hurdle was maybe not all the catalogues were perfect, so the ECDIS wouldn't load the data. So it was as close to the book as we could get, and then we've slowly backed that out to make it a little bit more flexible. And that's sort of a configuration switch that we have within the system, which is, try the data in its valid mode first, and then if it fails to load, have a go in the slightly more laid-back approach. And then if that doesn't work, throw the toys out the pram and put a load of error messages on the screen. In terms of the other test beds, yes, that's something we have. We've started talking to the Australians for their test bed. Canada, certainly. We haven't got that data into our ECDIS yet, purely because we've been focusing on the UKHOC trial with Sean, because that was the hard and fast date. We had some specific timelines with that vessel to meet, so we just didn't want to dilute our attention too widely. But that's next week's problem.
Yeah, hello, Ralf Becker-Heinz is my name. Perhaps more philosophical question. When I remember back the first ECDIS wave, which was remembered during your nice introduction, there was the fear of overtrust of the operators in the ECDIS information. And although I admire all the technical advancements and the arguments we have, more precise data, more effective, more accurate, more whatever, isn't it tempting for the seafarer to even more trust the ECDIS, whether it's justified or not? And if I remember, Andy, your presentation with a nice S104, that the water tides or the water levels. I mean, back in the very old days, we had a pencil in this paper chart, and we didn't erase it. We used the same course in the paper chart and again. When we had the first ECDIS wave, and I was on board as a seafarer, we had our library of routes. That means we reused them again and again, although route planning should be from berth to berth. If I would now use a library like this, where the safe water changes every hour, what might be safe during my last port visit might be unsafe during the next. Well, this is the big question mark I draw. Does it really increase safety everywhere and any time?
So, yeah, absolutely valid points. Within the new ECDIS performance standard, there are measures taken to mitigate that, where the route will actually highlight safety checks for the next leg and the leg following that. So you do have kind of like a continual safety check of the route ongoing. But absolutely, this is why I said the training of an S100 ECDIS deserves more than 5 minutes in a manufacturer's type-specific course. You're fundamentally changing, tens and hundreds of years of navigation principles where the water level is moving. That's something that's not been done in SOLAS before. So therefore, it deserves the care and attention and diligence through training that it needs. And that's why, I've been saying this for 4 to 5 years at various different groups. That new IMO model course needs to happen sooner rather than later, and this is not something that should be pushed down to the manufacturers to gloss over in a type-specific training course.
If I may add on, the S100 will reduce, for sure, problem, but it will not eliminate the problem of over-reliance completely. Spoofing and jamming, good example. Yeah? They still do these mistakes. And although even the current performance ECDIS provides for certain functionality which can help to detect and counter-react it, it's not being done in all the cases. The new one improves the situation, but it would not eliminate that completely. That's why, let's say, the subject of over-reliance still needs to be in the one of the focuses in the training. Yeah? Continuous positioning gives the impression that everything is fine. Maybe not.
Yeah, I'm Florian. I'm responsible for Voyage Solutions, and just back to Mr. Becker-Heinz. I would say that 2 things. First thing is route planning should not be part of some libraries reused. It should be an automatic process where all this data is considered automatically. And the second thing is, what I learned at C-Smart when I was a seafarer was that training should be extended dramatically to understand the limitations of systems instead of the usage of systems. And that's something what the industry needs to understand, that a seafarer can just use a system efficiently when he understands what the limitation is. And that's what training is required for.
Thank you very much, Florian. Well said.